Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. It's May 14th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and it was all uphill today for the most part. We had a little bit of we backed off a little bit here in the afternoon, but I don't want to call this low volume, but it's still because the volume's still a little bit above average from what we would normally have on a day like this, but the volatility was definitely down compared to what we've been seeing the last few days. So that's the way I would describe this day. But it looked like it was going to be a fairly normal two-tiered channel. We actually got an overshoot here before we reversed in the afternoon. So this part up here was a little difficult to trade because once you get outside this channel, you just don't know when the reversal is really going to come, and you really need a strong trend and proven trend in the other direction like we got here. But it's all really after 2 o'clock before this trend was proven. So it was a little hard to trade this in the afternoon because you're way oversold up here, and you got to be careful going short, but at the same time you really got to be careful going long too. So your best trading was early morning. That's generally the best time for the market. Lately, that we've had some really good afternoon trading, it seems like, but anyway, not near as many trades today, and still there's a few trades in here you could argue far one way or the other. So if you see something that I don't mark and I don't talk about it, then it doesn't mean that it was a definite no-no. If you want to ask me about it, feel free to. Um, but not quite as much price action, so it's just not going to be the number of trades that we've been seeing. So, I mean, there's so many trades the last few days, it was hard to even cover them all. So, and like I said, there was always a handful or so that you could still almost argue for. But when you've got a really good trend and it's real obvious which way it's going, um, you want to wait on your better setups. You don't have to, if you got a strong trend and it's constantly moving, it's been doing that most of the day, then be a little more choosy. Wait for a little better setup. And somebody made the comment that that's the hard part, and that's correct. That is the hard part. What you got to learn in trading is that you got to be very disciplined to be successful, and you've got to be able to sit for long periods of time and do nothing. And that is so hard for traders because they are constantly scanning for an entry. They want to find an entry at any point, at any time. And the key is to wait till prices to come back to the key entry points and then get a setup. And if you can do that, you can change your odds and your success quickly by doing that. So just remember that. Wait. We know that the big moves always happen at the key entry points. And where are the key entry points? Strong support and resistance. And that can be trend lines, flat lines like support and resistance in ranges, and it can also be the EMA, and it can even be midlines and the trend channel line on the opposite side. So those are all key entry points. Although you're not going to have as many trades off the trend channel because you'll be taking, if you're trying to enter off that side, then you're basically counter trend trading. When it got a little flat, there's a couple of shorts up here that I marked because this is not, this is not even a 45-degree angle. It's a little bit flat, and you can see prices swinging back and forth pretty much all day long until late morning here. Um, and then it started back again in the afternoon. When it's swinging back and forth like that, you can trade it both ways for the most part. So just be careful when you're in a known trend. But this is not a real steep trend. It's a little bit flat. The bias is certainly up here. But if you get a trap or the right trade, you can short this. And you can see I marked a couple of them. You won't see many today, but there's a couple. So anyway, let's back out and talk about the trade. 7 o'clock hour came right in here. There really was no setup to get short. You don't want to go short out of that. It's too much congestion right into the EMA. You got to be real careful trying to go short right there. So you did have to be a little patient and wait. Notice that you come back to the key entry point right here, and you got a new high, then you got a first entry, you get a second leg down, you get a second entry, it fails, and you've got a trend line way down here. So if you got enough room to get out, you're probably interested in that one. Normally you want to wait on the second entry, but I think in this case, with it being off that key entry point, it actually broke higher, turned, and went out the other side. So you could have gone short one tick below this bar right here to the left of the big bearish bar. Or as bearish as that is, you could wait for it to close, drop your sell stop right there, and wait and see if it's triggered, which it would have been, and it was a quick, easy move. And of course, we bounced down here. There's a higher low right here, but I was a little leery about entering in here. Still below the EMA and below that trend line. This was pretty much a proven trend, but they were kind of fighting each other, and you never know if you don't get a break here, so you had to be a little careful here. So it was better off to wait and see if it came back to this trend line and gave you another opportunity to enter. Notice that you basically got a little double bottom here, so you get a first entry and then you get a second entry short. So if it breaks higher anywhere down through here before you reach a scalper's profit, we consider that a failure. So, and notice it really tried to go lower 1, 2, 3 times right there. And so when it broke higher here off that key entry point, off the EMA, even though that's a doji because it's somewhat of a short trap, it doesn't matter about the signal bar. So I like going long there. That was really a good entry there, and you're expecting prices to try to go higher if this larger two-tiered channel is in play, which at this point it really looks, I mean, it's pretty obvious. We came off the high, came back, tested the midline, came down, tested the trend line, started working up, and you can see it working off the lows here again, then off the high. So this is a pretty obvious trend channel. It's obvious it's in play. So I like going long there. You don't really get another opportunity and it just sails off. You don't want to be going short. We're not back to the top yet. You are a little bit away. I would expect it to come back maybe and test this midline and try to go higher again. It doesn't. It comes all the way back down to the trend line, and you even get a close outside. It's not real convincing, but I think it's one that you got to consider. Hey, if we make a new high from here, we could get a reversal. So, of course, it does take off, and notice what happens. You get a first entry, you push through the EMA, which is what you want to see, and you come back and test it, and you get a failed second entry short, and you have a nice bullish bar there. That's where you want to go long, and it takes off. I drew this trend line off these first couple of closes here and drug it down, and it does bounce here, but that bar is so big and it's right back into the midline and the highs. I think you got to wait on and let it see if it confirms this trend line, and then of course it comes back again and confirms it and gives you another nice bullish bar. I like going long there. And notice what it does. It pushes through the EMA, pulls back and tests it before it goes higher. You don't really get a good signal bar here. I'd say you might take that one, but again, too, it's right across these highs, this resistance, and so you got to be a little careful there. And then once it gets up here, now we're looking for a possible reversal. And notice what it does. It makes a new high. It continues to bounce up here, but then it tries to go higher once, twice. That's a failed, and it broke higher right there, and now you've tested that trend channel line again, and it turns and goes out the other side on a failed. That's a failed second entry long right there. It is also actually there's a second entry short right there, so you can't really look at that as a second entry, but it is a failed second entry long. It's a double test of this trend channel line after an overshoot. It did go higher first and then go out the other side, so you could have gone short there. You could have waited on this one to close, but that's a pretty big bar, so if you had have waited on that, I might have let it break lower and dropped the limit order a little further back, just see if I could get a better entry. And you could have, you still got plenty of room to get out before these lows, but you want to, if you can help yourself out by getting an extra tick or two, it's probably not a bad idea, especially since we're really trying to pick a top here, because that's still what we're doing. The key difference is that we're waiting until there's a trap and a failure here. And the other problem is we haven't closed. You get a little close outside right there. It's not much though. I don't know if you'd call that convincing. So I think this is really the first close outside that's convincing. and notice that takes us on up to a new high, and before we start to really sell off again. So but we end up just kind of going sideways here, and you can see that little trading range. I don't have the upper line up there. This is really the upper line, and this one's more flat. You can copy this one and move it up there, and you can see that now. It's just, you know, you got your resistance up here and your support down here, and notice that you've tested this once, you came back and tested it twice. There's really two tests in that test right there, and then you climb up and you come back again. So you got a double test, you got a little failed break lower there, you bounce off the midline, you got a nice bullish bar on a bigger picture. That's two legs. I like going long there just to look for it to run up there, and I mean, this has been really strong, so it wouldn't surprise me if we bounced off the midline and continue to go in this, stay in this upper half. But not only did we go higher, we just keep going higher. We actually get outside, and what really happens here is you have a little bit of a correction here. This was a little flat, so it, you know, this is more of your 95, or I'm sorry, 45-degree angle here. This one actually might be a little bit steeper than you'd like, so, but it doesn't surprise me that we were a little flat early on, and then once people decided this was going to be a trend day to the upside after all the, you know, the selling we've had, that it kind of picks up steam. And so we really just had a little bit of a correction. It started about, oh, maybe about 10:15 or so, and I'd say it picked back up here about 10, right, probably around 10:25 or something like that. So so it wasn't even quite an hour. It was almost an hour probably, because really we started going sideways over here. It was close to an hour, 45 minutes or so, and then the trend starts back up. Usually your correction is going to last an hour or so before a trend will reestablish itself, and this one reestablished itself and at a steeper angle. And there's another shorter term one in here, which is this little kind of reddish brown one. You'll notice I drew that one as well, but there's a bigger pattern here, which is the two-tiered blue channel that starts going. Let's just make it a little darker so it's easier to see. It starts to get cluttered on here when you start to put all this stuff, but you know, if this is my personal trading chart, I probably clean some of this off, but you know, when you're doing the chart lesson, you want it all on here because you want people to be able to see it. So by changing the colors a little bit, I think that helps. But anyway, this was so tempting right here, but you just can't go long into this original two-tiered channel. But notice how it pushes up, and you actually get a failed second entry short right there. Notice that little double bottom, so that's a new low, and then first entry, second entry. So, and this is a repeat pattern pretty much from the one I showed you earlier. Where was that one at? Oh, right here. Notice how we're, even though we tried to go lower a couple of different times, it's the first break higher, and that's exactly what happened right here. We tried to go lower a couple of times, but that's the first break higher right there. This is more of a clear cut, you know. Notice we tried to go lower once, then twice, then three times. But so from this point right here, when it broke lower, if it breaks higher at any point before we get a scalper's profit, that's what we consider a failed second entry. And so but this thing bounces, goes higher. I mean, and with that red or brownish channel there, you would expect it to try to make a new high. And there's really a hidden second entry there. Notice that high, and you move down, you go back up, and go back down. There's a hidden second entry there. So you might consider that as well. And notice how it takes off again. And we just kind of bounce along up here. I don't think you want to re-enter up here. It does come back to the midline, but I'd want at least a second entry there, and you don't get it. And you really kind of get a little trend working lower. And it's tempting to go short right there, but this is a trend that seems to be picking up steam, so you can't go short into that midline on a first entry. You'd want a second entry there as well, and you just don't get one until you come all the way down here, and then you bounce here, and I draw my trend line right there just in case. And then notice that new low, first entry, and then second entry. There's actually a failed second entry short right there, but we weren't back to the trend line. But when it comes back again and you get that nice little bullish bar that opens on its very low, closes on its high, and notice there's a new high, pull back first entry, pull back, there's a second entry right there. I like going long. And that confirms the trend line, pretty much tells you, and notice how it's fitting over here. It's fitting pretty nicely on this side so far as well. Midline's fitting nicely. And this thing turns off and it starts turning down right off of it. And then we finally get a close outside this one and bounce. Again, there's just not really a good setup up here. But when we made notice we make that high, we try to go higher once, then twice, and it fails instantly when it broke higher and turned lower. And notice that low first entry, and so there's a second entry short right there as well. So I like that one just for a second leg. We didn't quite get a new high, but because that's a trap right there, you would figure we're probably going to get another leg down like this right here. Because you got one leg down, then you got a little two-legged correction, so we'll probably get a second leg down. And I'd look from there, I'd measure from there. If we kept going, I'd measure from there. We still went a little further than that too, but really, because there's a little two-legged correction there, this would be the second half of it. So you'd want to measure if we kept going from measuring from here like so, that would be your first target. If you kept going, your secondary target. But they're so close, if you get close to either one of them, I'm probably going to exit. You can't try to get all of every move. If you try to get greedy, a lot of times you're going to watch it bounce on you. The next thing you know, you gave it all back. So, what I generally do, I find my measured move. Let's just give you an example here. Let's say this is my measured move, and I'm measuring from here. So when I get down here close, within a few ticks of this low, I'm probably going to exit. Notice how it bounced right there. So I'm probably not the only one thinking and looking at that exactly the same way. And so you get a few exits there, but there's still the selling overtakes. And so you had a little bit of temporary buying just from people, smart traders exiting based on a measured move probably. And then the selling still comes back in, and it goes a little further before it actually bounces. And that's what happens. So, and that's showing you right there after basically a perfect measured move, you get a little buying coming in there. And most likely that's people thinking, just like I was just explaining to you, hey, we got two legs down on a measured move, we better exit. And they start exiting. A few of them get out, but the buying or the selling still overtook. Once a few of them probably bought and it bounced a little bit, then it continues lower. And that took us into the 2 o'clock hour. So not nearly as many trades today. Again, there's probably a few others you could say, hey, this looks pretty good on my chart or whatever. I liked it, and if it fit the rules and it looked pretty good and you took it and it worked, then you're probably okay. And if you got any question, feel free to send me a picture of it. I'll comment on it. But when it gets volatile, and like I said, even though this felt pretty calm today compared to what we've been seeing, there's still a lot of volume here and a little bit of volatility, but nothing like what we have been seeing. I mean, we've had some crazy days here. I mean, look how many bars we had yesterday. I mean, look, just in the overnight, look how many bars we had. And then notice from 8:30, I mean, I got to scroll through this thing several times to get across till 2 o'clock, where today you can get every bit of it on one page. So compared to what we've been having, this was a very quiet day. But this, there's still some volatility in here, so don't misunderstand that. But compared to what we've been having, this was a quiet day. And you had a lot more average size bars, and I've had a few questions about how to handle the large bars because of all the volatility, and it's a dilemma because I don't want to tell anybody that don't worry about the 2-point stop rule because it's very important and it'll keep you from blowing your account. However, I will say this, if you're pretty good at reading the market and or reading the price chart and you understand what's going on, I don't worry too much about that 2 point stop rule. I still take the entry just like I always would. I put my stop where I always would. And what I'll do is either I won't worry about it and I'll just scalp out and try to keep my runner going, and I may not move it up as quick. Or I'll try to sneak in with a limit order. In other words, let's just say I wanted to enter here. Um, I'll let it break above, and then I'll drop a limit order further back here to get a little better entry. Now, what I'm going to tell you with that is you're going to miss the best trades. Like let's just give you an example. Let's find one. Like right here, this just took off, and look at it go. And if you tried to use a limit order here, it didn't back up, so you probably couldn't have. You probably would have missed a really good trade. So you could do that, or the other alternative is trade it like you normally would, but if it takes you more than 8 ticks for your stop, let's say it takes you 12 ticks, that's hard to get out. If it takes you 12 ticks to get where you need to be, then you're 4 ticks more than what you normally would have. Add that to your profit. Try to get 4 more ticks out of it, because you can see most of these trades as they take off, getting an extra 4 ticks is nothing on a day like this. When the market goes back to normal, don't try doing that. But when it's highly volatile and it moves so fast that it'll move 8 or 10 ticks in a blink, it's much easier to do it. And it's much easier to get runners, and it's much easier to get some, you might even not scalp out. You may just try to catch some swing trades. So just keep that in mind. You just have to it's a thin line, and it's hard to determine, and if you start trying to pick and choose, you'll probably get it wrong every time. So whatever you decide to do that consistently, and you'll probably be okay. But that's the hard part is, somebody will try it. It didn't work this time, and then they'll watch it the next time, and it works. And they'll watch it the next time, and it works. And they'll watch it again, and it works. And they say, okay, I'm going to try it next time because it's worked 3 times in a row, and then they try it, and it doesn't work. And so they've tried it twice, and it didn't work, and they watched it 3 times, and it did. So don't ask me why, but that's trading, and that's the way it always seems to work. No matter what you try to do, you will be wrong. And so that's why we have rules, and we follow the rules, because if we do that consistently, we'll get our number of times we'll be right more times than we'll be wrong. But if you start picking and choosing, you're going to be wrong almost every time. And I don't know why it's like that, but it's a mental. A lot of what we do is mental, and you have to get over it. Whatever it is, your mind will talk you into the worst trades ever, and right out of the best trades down there. And I cannot understand. I mean, I've done this so long, and I still can't explain that. It's mental. And I can remember talking myself into taking some horrible trades and justifying it, and then knowing I was wrong, and then sit there and see a perfect trade and talk myself right out of it. And I know as a newbie that that's happening with a lot of you. I bet you could probably, if every one of you posted, it's, hey, I've done that. Probably everybody that's watching this video will post, yeah, I've done that, because that's just part of trading. So a lot of so much of what we do is mental, and having discipline and being able to have a strong mind. Your mind just has to be stronger than your impulses, and it's not easy. I know, because it took me a long time to get my mind straight too. So I've been down the same road many of you are going now, and so I understand. I still fight that. You never really get over that. You just get better at managing it. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Just a reminder, I'm going to be out tomorrow morning for my eye doctor, so there probably will not be a mid-morning chart. I'm sure I'll be back in time to do a little trading, and I'll probably, depending on how I feel, unless they dilate my eyes or something, which I'm hoping they won't have to do tomorrow. But anyway, I'll be back to trade and for a couple of hours, and I'll probably do a chart lesson unless they dilate my eyes. If he dilates my eyes, there probably won't be either one tomorrow, because I didn't think about that yesterday when I first mentioned this. But I don't think I'm just going to get my prescription checked and get some, my prescription's constantly changing in that eye after my surgery. And he says it's going to continue to do that, so I'm going to have to go in probably every 3 or 4 weeks and have my prescription checked until it settles down again. So anyway, I expect to be back tomorrow and have a chart lesson. So, but there probably will not be a mid-morning chart in the morning on the website. So just keep that in mind. I'm done for today. Hope you had a good trading day. We'll be back again, hopefully tomorrow, definitely on Thursday. But I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and I'll see you next time.